Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Season 2, Episode 7 of the Forge Podcast, brought to you by Shotgun Sports Network Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. My name is Ryan Messer, and happy April Fool's Day, everyone. Just glad to, can't believe it's already April, guys. We've got a lot to get into tonight. The Bulls had their last regular homestand of the regular season there, and the Squadron finished out their season. The Legion took a trip up to Pittsburgh for a match. The Stallions opened up their season in the nation's capital, and we are going to prep you for opening day for the Birmingham Barons. Before we get too far, I want to thank you guys for watching, whether on Facebook or YouTube, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, Audible, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're finding this podcast right now. So thank you for all your continued support. We also have to say thank you to Blue Spring Living Water. They keep us hydrated all year long, and they want to keep you hydrated as well with their naturally minerally enriched water that's bottled right at the source. No risk of contamination. You can find it right at your local grocer, or you can get it delivered right to your home or office. Just make sure you go to bluespringlivingwater.com for more information. And with that, this is Season 2, Episode 7 of the Forge Podcast. We're going to lead things off with the Birmingham Bulls, who had a couple transactions over the past week. On Tuesday, Matt Clark was placed on the 14-day IR, and they wound up signing Cole Youngworth to replace him to a standard contract. So, welcome Youngworth onto the team. And on Thursday, we wound up seeing the Bulls go up I-65 to Huntsville to take on the Havoc. Mike Robinson was in the net for the Havoc, and Lotz, he was in for the Bulls. Andrew Ballant got things started just into the 6th minute by finding the back of the net. Then just past the 7-minute mark of the period, we saw Mason Palmer from the Havoc get tripped up after he slashed Jared Christie. Getting up, he wound up tackling Christie there. They went to blows on that, and Kyler Matthews went to assist Christie there, and Charlie Risk was headed over to get in the middle of it, but Trevor Thurston kind of tied him up and tried to stop him. But Trevor Thurston, when he did that, they wound up dropping gloves there. So having 2 fights there, and then all of that resulted in the Havoc wind up having a power play there for about a minute and about 1.5 minutes of power play time there. Or, I'm sorry, about 5 minutes of power play time, sorry. They wound up capitalizing just over 4 minutes into it to tie it up. And then with just over 3 to play in the period, the Bulls went on the power play for too many men penalty there. The Bulls wound up going on a 5-3 man advantage for about 32 seconds for a slash, but they didn't need that much longer because Just 16 seconds in, Bellant wound up capitalizing on the power play there. Into the second, the Bulls wound up going on the power play again, this time for a delay, just 3:35 into the period. Unable to capitalize on that, the Havoc did tie things back up just 2 minutes later. Then midway through the 13th minute of the period, the Bulls retook the lead as Bellant wound up getting the hat trick on there. Just over 30 seconds later, the Havoc answered right back. And then 3 minutes later after that, Nikita Kozarev retook the lead. And then 40 seconds later, the Bulls went back on the power play for too many men penalty. And Bellant wound up capitalizing on that just 9 seconds later as they were pulling Robinson to record his 4th goal of the night. With just over 2 to play in the period, Phil Ledzianko was charged with a slash. After successfully killing that penalty, the Bulls would wind up starting the third with a power play for a verbal abuse of an official, just as the buzzer sounded to end the second period. They did capitalize on that just 4 minutes into the third period, and the Havoc wound up answering 3 minutes later. Then 1.5 minutes later after that, 1.5 minutes later that, Ryan Romeo was charged with an interference. And then they did capitalize with just 11 seconds remaining in the penalty. But at the turn of the 13th period, the Bulls wound up back on the power play. Unable to capitalize, Jamie Dorsey did get charged with a hold just after the penalty there expired. And they wound up pulling Wilson with 2:18 to play. And then about 10 seconds later, Bellant wound up getting charged with a cross check. And then just with 55 seconds left to play, the Bulls wound up clearing the puck. Phil Ledzianko got caught up with it, and Colton Olnick was able to dump it in through collision at the empty net for a shorthanded goal to seal it for the Bulls there in Huntsville. So great showing there by the Bulls. Then Friday, they wound up coming back home to Pelham to take on the Fayetteville Marksmen. Ryan Kinney was in the net for the Marksmen and Stewie in for the Bulls. Ryan Romeo wound up getting charged with a trip just 6:22 into the game, which the Bulls were able to successfully kill. In the second, the Bulls went on the power play just 7:09 into the period. The Bulls were not able to capitalize, but Kip Ledzianko was able to score just seconds after it expired. Then they went back on the power play with just 8:11 to play in the period, but they were unable to capitalize on that one. In the third, the Marksmen were able to tie things up in the 8th minute of the period. Then the Bulls were able to go back on the power play with just 1:18 left to play in regulation. Unable to capitalize, each team only recorded a single shot on goal in the overtime period. So nothing happening there. So when they went to shootout, they went through 5 rounds, and in the 5th round, Nikita Kozarev was able to seal it there for the Bulls. On Saturday, they took on the Fayetteville Marksmen once again. Kenny was back in the net for the Marksmen and Lotzie in for the Bulls. Bulls started things off just midway through the opening period with Phil Ledzianko getting charged with a trip. The Marksmen wound up capitalizing just 32 seconds left in the penalty. The Bulls wound up going on the power play just over 4 left to play in the first. Kip Ledzianko wound up getting things started in just 4:13 into the second period to tie things up. 6 minutes later, Troy McTavish wound up taking the lead for the Bulls. Then the Bulls were able to go back on the power play for a slash just 5 minutes later. Unable to capitalize, Carson Rose did score with 2.5 left to play in the second. Then the Havoc wound up pulling Kenny with just 5.5 into the third. He did return 13 seconds later when McGregor Sinclair got charged with a slash. But after killing the penalty, Brierly was playing the puck in the neutral zone, made a shot that was tipped in by Phil Ledzianko to seal it for the Bulls. So, just a great showing by the Bulls this weekend, getting hot right at the right time. So, as it stands right now, Peoria Rivermen are in first place. Huntsville Havoc are in second. Roanoke Road Yard Dogs are in third. Birmingham is sitting at fourth, and they can seal the home ice in the first round if we win at least one game in regulation this weekend, or both games in overtime or shootout. Or if Fayetteville winds up losing one of the games. Fayetteville's sitting at 5. Knoxville is sitting at 6. Evansville is sitting at 7. And Quad City is in 8th. All the playoff teams are set, but there's still room for a little bit of movement within them, but we're definitely set for the playoffs, which starts next week. But this coming up week, the Bulls head to Evansville to take on the Thunderbolts. So can't wait to see that, and hopefully we can win both games and continue this streak that we're on. Speaking of the playoffs, Quad City is set to take on Peoria for Series A. Series B contains Evansville and Huntsville. And then Knoxville and Roanoke for Series C. And then Fayetteville and Birmingham for Series D. So, hopefully, Birmingham can get that home ice and look forward to the playoffs. Switching things over to the Birmingham Squadron, who finished off their regular season the past week. On Tuesday, they wound up taking on the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. Both teams wound up going back and forth to start out. Birmingham had a small lead, controlling majority of the first quarter. They kept going back and forth in the second quarter, but before the Vipers wound up going on an 11-point run, retaking the lead midway through the second quarter. Birmingham wound up cutting that lead to 1 in the final seconds of the half, and then coming out of the locker room at the half, the Vipers came out hot, increasing their lead to double digits midway through the third quarter. Then they were able to take advantage of the lead and control momentum through the fourth quarter, and where Birmingham was able to kind of cut the lead a bit and actually take the lead with less than 3 to play. But the Vipers were able to use the clock to their advantage and extend their lead back to close it out 119 to 114. And then on Friday, they wound up going to Osceola to take on the Osceola Magic down in Kissimmee, Florida. The Magic was able to jump out to an 8-0 lead early. Birmingham fought back, but every time they would, Osceola would catch back up and retake a commanding lead. But in the second, Birmingham's defense seemed to step up a bit, capitalizing on some defensive rebounds and controlling a majority of the second quarter. Osceola was able to regroup and retake the lead in the final minute of the first half. Coming out of the locker room, Osceola wound up coming out hot, extending their lead to double digits in the opening minutes. But this period resembled the first. By the way, Magic would wind up pulling away every time the Squadron would catch up. This ended with around 4 to play in the third, as they wound up retaking a double-digit lead that would take them into the fourth. In the fourth, they wound up taking advantage of that lead and Birmingham did not stop. They would wind up powering back to tie it multiple times, ending it with 117, all in regulation. In overtime, we saw them go back and forth with Mitchell hitting a key three, but the Magic would go on to walk it off with a couple of free throws to win the game there in overtime, 124 to 122. So the struggle. I mean, they don't give up. They get down, but the problem is they keep letting these teams get them behind the eight ball too much. So, really interested to see what happens this offseason. But on Saturday, Osceola again in Kissimmee, Florida. Osceola came out and took an early lead that they held midway through the midway mark of the opening quarter, when Birmingham would go on to a 9-point run to retake the lead. Osceola quickly took it back and started extending their lead to double digits toward the end of the quarter. And then in the second, Osceola wound up maintaining their lead as the teams went back and forth throughout the remainder of the first half. Coming out of the locker room, though, at the half, Birmingham started erasing the Magic's lead once again and came within 2 before Osceola wound up going on another 11-point run to extend their lead to 12 midway through the third. Then Birmingham did go on to a run of their own, but to cut the lead to 6, but before the buzzer rang to signal the final quarter of play. But Birmingham kept pressing in the fourth and even came within 3 points. But some late fouls were capitalized on by the Magic, leading to the Squadron closing out their season with yet another loss. They closed the season out with a 12-22 record and 15th in the Eastern Conference of the NBA G League. So, again, interested to see what happens this offseason. I like Coach TJ Saint, but I'm not sure how this is going to go over with the team. But it's that we have not been in the playoffs, and we've got to see some kind of success. Of course, we do have players that keep coming and going up. We get a good player, and they see it up and over in New Orleans, and they immediately grab him up. So it's not really his fault. He's getting the players and getting some good players, but every time we do that, they go up to New Orleans. So struggling there, so not sure where we're going to go from there. Switching things over to the Birmingham Legion. On Saturday, when they took a trip up to Pittsburgh to take on the Riverhounds. Things started with the Riverhounds getting shown a yellow card just into the 15th minute. They were able then to capitalize on a goal in the 36th minute. The Riverhounds wound up dominating the possession there in majority of the first half. The Legion did do a little bit better in the second, but this Pittsburgh team is very accurate, a very accurately shooting team. And in the 70th minute, they scored again. Then into the 72nd minute, Ronaldo Damus was shown a yellow card. And the Legion kept pressing, but just couldn't get anything going, getting shut out in Pittsburgh 2-0. So as it stands right now, they are 0-2-2. They are winless on the season so far, and they are 9th in the Eastern Conference of the USL Championship. So hopefully we can get some things going. They don't have anything coming up this week, but they will be back home Sunday after next. So can't wait to see them actually hopefully get some wins on the season. Switching things over to the Birmingham Stallions. They had their season opener at DC this past Sunday. And the Stallions wound up getting the ball first to start the game, which ended on a failed fourth down conversion attempt, turning the ball over on downs. This set up the defenders with great field position position to hit a 37-yard field goal. And the following drive, we wound up seeing Alex Magoo get sacked and nothing really opening up for the Stallions on offense. The drive wound up ending with a Harrison Melvis 53-yard field goal to tie it up. DC scored again on the following drive off of another field goal, this time from 39 yards. Into the second quarter, Alex Magoo did successfully hit CJ Marable with a touchdown pass to put the Stallions up 9-6. And then a 2-point conversion pass to Marlon Williams made it 11-6. That didn't last too long as the defenders wound up scoring another touchdown right before halftime to make it 12-11. The Stallions defense stood a little bit better in the third quarter, not letting anything go let them go anywhere in the third quarter, but the offense was just spinning its wheels. I mean, it was horrible. The defenders were able to start the fourth quarter by marching down the field at will before getting stalled in the red zone. They did make another successful field goal to extend their lead to 4. DC was able to score yet again off of a 53-yard field goal to put it away for the defenders inside the 2-minute warning. Birmingham tried to make it through, but just couldn't get anything going in there inside the 2-minute warning there. So, as for my thoughts, the defense played pretty soft. Never really put any pressure on Jordan Ta'amu. He had all day in the pocket to do whatever he wanted to. They did have good run defense, but they just really couldn't get anything going, to pressure Ta'amu for the check down passes and stuff like that. So it was easy just to kind of toss it into the to a little slant, whatever. But also, the offensive line is not a cohesive unit like it was last season. The Christian DeLauro was at left tackle and was getting beat every single snap. He is also the same guy that started in the same position there in San Antonio when they lost last season. So hopefully we can get it together in the next couple days, because they had the day off yesterday, apparently, according to Coach Holtz, and then they got back to practice today. They practice tomorrow, and then they fly out to Michigan to Detroit on Thursday and get a couple practices in before the game on Friday. So can't wait to see what they do on Friday night. But switching things over to the Birmingham Barons, Friday, happy opening week. The Barons are going to be opening up on Friday. We are actually going to cover a practice tomorrow and get some interviews with Guillermo Queiroz, the new manager, as well as a few players. They wound up arriving late yesterday afternoon and are having a practice this evening. They will practice tomorrow and Thursday, and before the game there on Friday. And speaking of the team, we've got a few people coming back from last season. Of course, we've got Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, Grant Taylor, shortstop Jacob Gonzalez there, DJ Gladney, Riku Nishida, the bunt king, and then Wilfred Veras is also back. So can't wait to see these guys tomorrow. We will be putting some content out with those guys. I love the Barons because they're so much fun just to talk to and get a little bit of interview with. But they will be taking on the Knoxville Smokies on Friday for championship night. So make sure you guys get out there. They're gonna have fireworks, all kinds of things for the kids. So um, get out there. There's something out there for the entire family and celebrate the Southern League champion Birmingham Barons. But we've so much coming up this week. Final week of the Southern Professional Hockey League regular season. We hope to see the Stallions bounce back after a tough loss in DC. The Barons are opening things up there on Friday. But that's about all we've got for this week. You guys have a great night, and we will see you then. Good night.